extremely honored to be here before you today. When Mr. Hester asked me if I would speak, I quickly said yes. And then as I retired to my car, I asked God, I said, why did I say yes? What have I done to accomplish, what have I accomplished to make people want to hear from me? What is it that I have to say? Why would he ask me to give this address? And I felt the Spirit of God say, he didn't ask you, he asked me. Oh. So if you don't like what I have to say today, take it up with God. I'm assuming you know how to get a hold of him. If you don't, then you probably don't have much to complain about. Can we give a round of applause to the musical genius? Both the band and the soloists, I think, did a great job of preparing our hearts for what I think is going to be a dynamic message. I'm going to tell you, like I said, I'm not taking credit for this, so there are some things that I have to communicate to you that I think needs to be communicated to you, and I myself am still working on them, and you're going to understand what I mean by that. What I want to talk to you today about is the radicalization of love. Now, Dr. King represented a lot in the 38 years that he was on Earth. Actually, 39. Mm-hmm. He worked very hard and he devoted his life to a message. And I don't know if that message was as well received as it should have been. And that message is one that requires a militarization of love, a weaponization of love. What do you mean by that? Why are you using such vulgar, extreme language to describe such a soft, subtle concept? Well, love is often not very soft and is often not very subtle. And when we talk about the radical love that I want to get into today, there's nothing soft about this love. So I want you guys to take a journey with me as I try and communicate the ideas that I have in my brain and my spirit to tell you, but I want you to meet this message with openness and acceptance, because like I said, there's going to be some things in here that are not going to make you feel comfortable. I don't really feel comfortable, but I know it's because it is radical. Now, in preparation for this speech, I've read 2 books on Dr. King, 2 of which were written by him, one of which written by Tavis Smiley, and another one was an autobiography written by somebody else. And as I read and researched more and more on Dr. King, I started to become more and more comfortable with this. With me standing up here, relaying a message to you. I felt comfortable with that because I am no one. And as I read Dr. King's writing, he too was no one. If you know anything about Dr. King, he grew up in a relatively pampered lifestyle. His father was a minister. They were wealthy. So he didn't have the class struggle that, say, Malcolm X had or Booker T. Washington. In fact, the only issues of racism that he had growing up was the black versus the white signs. He didn't have to suffer the way a lot of black people in that day suffered. And he went on to college and he got to get an understanding of his role as a human in this life. And that's what made him uneasy. It was when he returned to the South that he realized just how evil, how sickening prejudice, racism could be. And this is the type of man that he was. Racism scared him. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but there was one night he had in his kitchen where Dr. King wanted to give up. He wanted to give up and he asked God, how can I take this plate from me without seeming to be a coward? That day, God reaffirmed his faith and he told him, no matter what happens, I will protect you. And from that day on, Dr. King, and read the biographies, it's a very powerful message, Dr. King made up his mind that he was going to give his life to the movement. He wasn't an extraordinary guy, but he was extraordinarily human. He was not exempt from his vices. He was not exempt from his sins. And if you know anything about the man, he did have plenty of them. But he was faithful, and he was just, and he was radical in just but one thing, and that's love. Dr. King's radical love made him superhuman, even though everything about him was human. The mistakes he made, human. The decisions he made, human. The walk he walked, human. But he became superhuman because of the radicalness of his love. Now, when I talk about radical love, I'm talking about a particular type of love. I'm talking about agape love. I'm talking about the unquestionable love that man has for God and God has for man. I'm talking about 1 Corinthians 13 love. The love that is kind. The love that is just. The love that is not envy. The love that is not boastful or proud. The love that loves its neighbors, that care for itself. The love that maintains hope through all adversity. The love that we actually need, ladies and gentlemen, to access our humanity. This is the type of love that I'm talking about. A profound, deep love that you cannot access until you find yourself in adversity, until you find yourself shaken by your circumstances. Oh God, how am I going to see my way out of this circumstance? This is the type of love that I am talking about. The love that you have to be going through something to experience. Do you love me with this agape love? No, you do not, because I have not hurt you. I am talking about the love that you can only have for somebody when they've hurt you, when they've broken your heart and tried to destroy your spirit. This love is the radical love that we all need, ladies and gentlemen, toward each other. Now, what's special about this type of love? This love is legacy building love, right? Now, we can canvas history. There's a lot of people we remember. There's Hitler, there's Stalin, there's Pol Pot. There are these people that are known for their evilness, their hatred, ladies and gentlemen. That is their legacy. They're etched out in history as the personification of hate. This is the legacy that they've left behind. But how did they leave it behind? You can't leave a legacy behind of hate unless you have billions of dollars to inflict that hate.
That's right.
Otherwise, you die a hateful person that everyone will forget. Right. Only the rich end up building a legacy off of hate. So I ask you today, ladies and gentlemen, how do we get to build legacies if we're not rich? If we're just common people and we just want to be remembered by our children and our children's children and our children's children's children? How do we make that lasting impression? Ladies and gentlemen, there's one way that is common to all men, that is accessible by all men, and that is radical love. When you look at Mahatma Gandhi, when you look at Mother Teresa, you look at Dr. King, they had nothing. Absolutely nothing. But we will talk about them generations upon generations upon generations. We know when Dr. King's birthday is, right? We don't also always remember when Malcolm X's birthday is, but we know when this man's birthday is. Why? It's because of the legacy that he has built. It's long lasting. It will stand the test of time. And that is what love does for you. So you can build a legacy, you can build a philosophical legacy like Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Booker T. Washington. You can etch your place in history, answering profound questions like Dr. King, like Mandela and Malcolm X. You can join athletics. You can do whatever it is you want, ladies and gentlemen, but I guarantee you the best way to establish a legacy is establishing that legacy in love. Why? Because it's free. You don't have to pay for training. You don't have to pay for coaching. You don't have to pay for anything except for a little bit of faith. And I think that payment comes through prayer, right? And as long as you have a mouth, you can pray. As long as you have a will, you can pray. So where does this love start? How do we access this love? I'm here to tell you, you can't access this love for anybody else until you start to radically love yourself. Charity starts at home, then spreads abroad. When you go flying, the people on the airplane, they don't tell you secure yourself first, then secure your child, or they don't tell you secure your child, then secure yourself. They tell you to secure yourself, then secure your child. Why? Because an adult can take care of a passed out child, but a child cannot take care of a passed out adult. In order for you to spread the love that we have to see in this world, you have to begin with showing yourself that same exact love. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot tell me that you love God, but you do not love yourself. The Bible tells me that we are made in God's image, which means that in order to love God, we must first love ourselves. And once we begin to love ourselves, we begin to forgive ourselves. Thomas, that stupid thing that you did, that was just so dumb. I forgive you. Thomas, that was a very bad thing you said to that woman. Go back and apologize. After you're done, I'll forgive you. I forgive you, Thomas, because you were not perfect. Though you are made in the image of God who is perfect, you yourself are not perfect. And refuse to not extend yourself this love. We are all guaranteed this love, and God tells us that we are his children, and that he loves us unconditionally. He sent his world into this world. He sent his son into this world, not to punish us, not to chastise us, not to tell us what we are doing is wrong, that homosexual lifestyle you live in, brother, is wrong, that tax collecting lifestyle you live in is wrong, you Pharisee, you're wrong, you Sadducee, you're wrong. That ain't what Jesus was about. Jesus was about loving his enemies. And when the disciples pressed him, why are you having meals with that tax collector? The Bible says the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. So if God is the only perfect entity on this planet, and he forgives you, why then, I ask yourself, don't you forgive yourself? And it's because we've been taught a self-hate. What we've seen as success has come with white faces. We don't love ourselves because we haven't been shown the glorification of ourselves, our black, brown, beautiful selves. We've been denied this love for self. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to, as individuals, recapture this love. And this love has to be the essence. There's a poem that Dr. King used to always quote. It goes like this. Fleecy locks and black complexions cannot forfeit nature's claim. Skin may differ, but affection dwells in black and white the same. If I were so tall as to reach the pole, or can grip an ocean at a span, I will be measured by my soul, for the mind is the measure of the man. Has nothing to do with your skin color, has nothing to do with what college you went to, has nothing to do with how much money you make. It has everything to do with your mind. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to love yourself. Once you begin to love yourself, when we begin to acquaint ourselves with a love for ourselves, we can begin to love each other. Now, this is an unfamiliar type of love that we extend to each other. This is a type of love that we're not too familiar with. This is a hard love. This is the type of love that when my wife gets on me and she gets me all worked up and angry, I can look at her and say, I love you. I love you. Okay? It's hard, but I love you. Right? And you don't have to run around forcing hugs on each other. Right? As an attorney, I'm going to tell you that's assault. Okay? When you find yourself in circumstances where you can have a reaction, that reaction should always, must always be grounded in love. What does that mean? That means loving Michael Brown and Officer Darren Wilson. That means loving Tamir Rice and the officer who shot that 12-year-old boy down. That means loving Freddie Gray and the cops who abused him on the way to the police department. Ladies and gentlemen, that means loving Scott Walker and the shameful police officer that hunted him down as if he was wild game and shot him in the back. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what that love means. And I feel very uncomfortable talking to you about this love because I don't know this love. This love is a process. It's not a definition. It's something that you work toward. And those who continue to work for it, ladies and gentlemen, are blessed in history. How do you do this? How can you prepare yourself to love other people? Well, you have to do that by putting on the full armor of God. Hey. Okay, the Bible says, gird your loins in truth. Okay, you got to put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect your vital organs. Guard yourself with your shield of faith and your sword of the Spirit. Take it around with you wherever you go, ladies and gentlemen. Put on the helmet of salvation. Renew your mind daily, so that when the time comes, you shall mount up with the wings as eagles. Ladies and gentlemen, you will run and not grow tired. You will walk and not faint. But you do this only in the glory of God. Now, there's one thing that is perpetual in love, and that's accountability. If you're going to love yourself, you got to hold yourself accountable.
What?
If I love you, I'm going to hold you accountable. Yes, I can love all those police officers who's done grave injustices against my people, ladies and gentlemen, but they must be held accountable.
That's right.
Because that is love.
All right.
Okay? Love requires that we speak up in times where we want to be silent.
All right.
Love requires that we step in the shoes of those who are suffering, even though we are not suffering ourselves. Love requires us to step out of our comfort zone and requires us to dig deep for what it is that is necessary to change the face of humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, the experience that we have now, the human condition, is so degraded, it's so stretched, bogged down in turmoil, battered and bruised. Ladies and gentlemen, we as a people must develop systems to help each other. This is the only way we will be able to expand the human condition. And until that happens, we will continue to suffer in vain. Now, individuals are you must love, right? That radical love is what I'm talking about, that individual to individual, right? That love also requires accountability. But as a group, and this was something that I think was missed very largely by Dr. King's approach, as a group, we have to apply coercion. We have to apply coercion to the powers that be.
That's right.
The political order, the economic order, none of this stuff will change unless we begin to apply pressure in the right places. Well, what do I mean by applying pressure? I mean having a hypervigilance about your justice, having a hypervigilance about your neighbor's justice, so that if there's an entity or group that is not fulfilling that justice, you don't buy from them. You don't give to them. The thing about the black community is that we are notorious for supporting our haters. We love haters. Why do we love haters? We have to get rid of those haters, and the only way to get rid of those haters is by showing them love, by showing each other love. It's real easy for us to be pointed at as the bad guys because we're always going against each other. Why is it that we're always being reminded of the feud between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King? Why can't we be reminded of the commonalities that they have? Why can't we be reminded of people, that is a minority people, that is all people? Every people have a story. There's a story of failure. Our education system seems to want to focus on the story of failure. We as a people need to start talking success. We need to start talking success to each other, not going against each other, but talking about how we as a people can succeed together. And until we do that, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue to have this issue. All we're asking for is consistency. If I am endowed by my Creator with freedom, why is the nation under God so quick to take it away? That is not consistent. If I am equal and absolutely free, then why do people who look just like me get shot down during minor traffic stops? That's not consistency. If I have a right to bear arms, then why is it that Philando Castile has died and the NRA was silent when he was exercising this very right peacefully? That is not consistent. Why is it that the land of the free has the highest incarceration rate in the world? That is not consistency.
No, it's not.
If jails exist for rehabilitation, then why do 70% of people recidivate? That's not consistency, ladies and gentlemen. If a capitalistic society is set up for free competition, then why are the odds so stacked against us? This is not consistency. And that is the consistency that we are looking for. That is the consistency that we must strive for. Now, what's the purpose of this coercion? The purpose of the coercion is to get an equal chance. We're not asking for a handout. We're not asking for a handout. We're not asking for donations. We're asking for equal opportunity. That is, if I have the grades to go to a particular university, then I should be able to go to that university no matter who my grandfather was.
All right.
If I work hard enough in school and I go on to get a career, I should be able to work enough to pay my bill.
All right.
That is the type of access to the opportunity that we're talking about. The only way we get that access is if we start demanding a few things. First, we have to demand the humanization of mental health. It is a shame that the largest mental health facility in the country, guess what? It's the Los Angeles County Jail. Been regulated by a couple dozen Los Angeles County deputies. No mental health training. That is the state of mental health in the United States. We need to consider homelessness a failure of the state, not the person.
All right.
We need to humanize homeless mothers, homeless youth, homeless fathers. Widespread homelessness is a crime against humanity, and we need to be treated as such. We need to clear out the jails of individuals who are there because of corrupt political influence. Incarceration is not the answer to drug abuse.
Right.
Rehabilitation of that person and their community is. We need to pay fair wages and provide access to equal opportunity. Work for less wages than you survive on is slavery by a different form.
All right.
Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we need to level the playing fields of education. Public schools in the same cities and counties receive radically different education. We have to do something about this, ladies and gentlemen. But it's not all their fault. Okay, it's not all their fault. We have to take responsibility for some things. Okay, so I'm asking you today, start showing compassion to those suffering from poor mental health. You've been blessed with your faculty.
All right.
You've been blessed with your capacity. Work to allow other people to have the same experience that you are having here on earth. Normalize their experience. Ladies and gentlemen, recognize your role in the homeless issue. I go to a lot of meetings, I hear a lot of people giving speeches on homelessness. But then the minute somebody says, oh, we're going to put a homeless shelter there, they say, wait a minute, I live 2 blocks away. Where's your role in this? If that is you, you are not only complicit, you are implicit in the sins of our government. You need to take a stand on this issue. Mentor those around you. Keep them from going into incarceration. Herbert Simon talked about this thing called satisficing, right? Bounded rationality. You only know what it is you know. If you know that your cousin only knows how to be a criminal, he's only going to do criminal things. You need to take responsibility for him. Mentor him. Teach him that there are different ways that you can diversify your portfolio that does not include marijuana. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of skill that is trapped into our incarceration system. There's a lot of brilliance, there's a lot of genius, and I know because I represent them every single day. And there are innocent people behind bars right now. I know because I have represented them. This system is so lopsided. You go into court, you don't have the presumption of innocence if you're a black man. I've had the burden of proof of every last one of my minority clients. And I'm the defense. It shouldn't happen. But our system is getting away from us, and we as a people are letting it. We stand idly by as our brothers and sisters go down the stream of degradation. We stand by as their spirits are destroyed, their personalities inhibited, their brains wrecked. But it's okay because I'm comfortable. We must ensure that we economically support other individuals and other groups that are going to have our best interests in mind. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have to take education into our own hands. It's a shame that I had to work on my second doctorate degree in order to begin to love myself, in order to begin to love my people. The inventions that my people have done, have made to this world. I had to get a second doctorate degree to hear about that. Why? I've been in college for 14 years. 14 years. And I've still not heard the history that I've researched for myself, for my people. Because we're not seen as that. Our students, they sit in classrooms and they hear stories of glorification versus glories of subjugation, stories of subjugation. They hear of the white glory, but they hear of the black subjugation, the black oppression, the slavery. Why is it that our students don't know that it was a black man who invented the traffic light? Why is it that we don't know much about George Washington Carver? Why isn't that we don't know much about the intellectual contributions of people like W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington? Because it's not popular. And unfortunately, black people were very good about ignoring each other and ignoring our issues. Wow. So that unpopular things remain unpopular because we refuse to care about them. I told you guys weren't going like this. Now, Dr. King had a dream, and we're not in the place where we were when he had that dream, right? We were in a place where we could not register to vote without having our lives threatened or taken. We were in a place where being caught in the wrong part of town would lead to sudden death, torture, or abuse. We were in a place where a mere accusation by anyone in the community was enough for that community to inflict capital punishment. We were in a place where our facilities were separate, and we were systematically denied housing and lodging. We were in that place not too long ago, might I mind you. We were in a place where marriages like mine will result in the imprisonment of both my white wife and my black self. That is where we were, ladies and gentlemen. We were in a place where our black boys and our black girls received different educations from our white boys and white girls in the same city. We were in a place where our black mothers and black fathers were daily victims of overt hatred that bruised their bodies and took their lives, and covert hatred that sought to destroy their spirits and break their pride. That is where we were, ladies and gentlemen. We were in that place. We're not in that place no longer. We're no longer in that place. Now, our families are being destroyed by the... Now, every social and imprisonment. Now our black boys and our black girls sit in classrooms with white boys and white girls, but they learn the victories and the legacies of the Eurocentric educational system. They learn the subordinates of the color. That's the legacy that has been left in our education system. Our police are empowered to inflict capital punishment in the streets for violations as simple as a broken tail light.
Oh, Lord.
Now is better than it used to be. But Selma to Montgomery. It was the togetherness of the civil rights movement that brought about a lot of the change that we need to see today. And here we are, we find ourselves embarked upon another grand endeavor. Communities, respect them, everybody in them. We must go out, engage in civic organizations, support nonprofits that support enhancing the spirit of the people. Don't just make demands for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, but make demands for everyone. And I guarantee that we'd be much better off. Now, I'm not going to claim to have answers that I don't. I was born in Los Angeles to a single mother, and I started working at 11 to help pay bills. So I don't have the highfalutin lifestyle. I don't have the Harvard education, but I do have a work ethic.
All right.
And I have a work ethic that I'm more than willing to devote to this movement and to my people. But I think that this movement and my people need to understand that there's a place in it for everybody, everyone. And the radical love that Dr. King led, seriously, took 13 years. He was only in action for 13 years to leave the profound legacy that he has. If you have 13 years left, imagine the legacy that you could build before your day is done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. Another round of applause. Wow.